Big news impacting IMSA's GTP class as Lamborghini have paused their SC63 program after just 2 seasons. What went wrong, and importantly, what comes next for the SC63? We'll talk about that and more as Lamborghini have become the first LMDh manufacturer to leave the grid. When Lamborghini first announced in 2022 that they would be joining the growing list of LMDh manufacturers, you could say that it was a bit of a surprise. You see, the SC63 was Lamborghini's first factory-backed prototype effort, after becoming well known for their GT cars over the years. And with the announcement of this LMDh program, the SC63 would be the only car, and still is the only car, using the Ligier chassis. So with the program's pause, it does mean that no Ligier chassis will be on the grid in either WEC or IMSA competition. Now, the car looked fantastic when it was first revealed a couple of years ago, and for the most part, that still holds up today. It is an incredibly good looking car. And I would even say it makes a very strong argument for the best looking LMDh car that we've seen unveiled. But it wasn't just the car's appearance that was turning heads when this program was announced. There was a star-studded driver lineup there as well. It featured former F1 drivers like Danny Kvyat, Romain Grosjean, as well as Mirko Bortolotti, Andrea Caldarelli, Matteo Cairoli, and Eduardo Mortara. Needless to say, it was an absolutely stacked driver lineup, and one that you would feel very comfortable putting out against basically any other manufacturer that you came across. So the foundation of this program seemed sound. You had a great foundation of drivers. You have a manufacturer who has experience in a lot of endurance racing, albeit more on the GT side, looking to take that big step up to the prototype ranks now. But before that car would even be done with its development phase and enter its first race, it was already facing big challenges. Issues began for the SC63 when it was involved in a hard testing accident just months before the start of the 2024 season. The crash that took place at Paul Ricard not only destroyed one of their race cars, but heavily impacted the development of the entire program. You see, the car was in the final stages of being prepared for homologation, and they only had the one additional chassis at their disposal at the time, so they had to be very, very careful in the remaining test sessions that they had to not damage that car and make sure that they could proceed with the homologation that they needed to do in order to enter the following season. And then there was the limited team resources that they had as well. Instead of being able to focus all of those resources on improving the product that they had, further developing that car, instead they kind of had to shift gears and they had to build up a new car from scratch and ensure that there was sufficient parts and everything for the upcoming season that again was just around the corner. This testing crash was huge for the development of the SC63, and some of the lingering effects that you can really trace back to that crash are still present today with the car. A couple of months after this testing accident, and not necessarily a result of this testing accident, but probably a contributing factor, would be that Lamborghini would miss the season opening IMSA round, the Rolex 24, and instead join the IMSA grid round 2 at the 12 Hours of Sebring. Now, despite this delayed start, the SC63 was still able to make its WEC debut. It was in its first season doing a dual IMSA and World Endurance Championship campaign. But man, oh man, the results for this car in both championships have been rough. In the WEC, the car managed a best finish of 10th in the only season that it ran in, while in IMSA, it hasn't been much better. In the now 7 IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship races that it's run, it's only seen a best finish of 7th. And while that perhaps doesn't seem all that terrible, for the most part, it's been uncompetitive and unreliable. Now, don't get me wrong, the car has absolutely shown glimpses of speed. It led some laps in 2024 at the Indy 6 Hours and in 2025 at Watkins Glen as well. But the car has sandwiched those really good results with just absolute disasters, like this year at the Rolex 24, where the car didn't even make it an hour into the race before retiring, or at Sebring, where they sustained race-ending floor damage. Now, the SC63 program isn't being put on pause because of a couple of retirements and some poor results in their first 2 seasons. There have been some other factors that have led to where we are today. One of them is almost certainly the WEC's 2-car mandate. The new for 2025 rule requires all hypercar manufacturers to run 2 cars in that championship. Now, this may not seem like a huge deal, but when you're considering that Lamborghini is a pretty small manufacturer compared to some of those manufacturers they're going up against, this absolutely contributed to them withdrawing from the WEC in 2025. And another huge contributing factor in this was the breakdown in the relationship between Lamborghini and Iron Lynx. Iron Lynx was instrumental in developing and running the SC63 in both IMSA and the World Endurance Championship for the 2024 season. However, towards the end of that first season is when the relationship between the two really broke down. It deteriorated enough that the two split from one another at the end of the season, with Iron Lynx switching to Porsche and Mercedes GT3 machinery instead. That split would lead to Riley Motorsports picking up the SC63 program to run it in IMSA's Michelin Endurance Cup races. With Riley on board, the goal for the 2025 season was very much to continue developing the car where they could and get the car to a competitive state, with the hope that there would be some customer entries that would be customer teams that would be interested in running the SC63 in future seasons. Customer teams that were key to actually that program even existing past the 2025 season. Now, some of those upgrades are ready to go, and it's possible that we could see some of those upgrades on the car before the end of the season. However, it just appears that it's all too little, too late for the SC63. Lamborghini recently confirmed that the SC63 program would be put on hold as they shift their focus to other motorsport activities. Now, I'll touch on those other motorsport programs in just a second, but it raised the question, is the SC63 program on hold, or is it actually dead? Now, I think sure, it's possible that we could see the SC63 program return to the grid in the future, although I think it's very, very unlikely. I think you really need to be realistic in how you're looking at this. And Lamborghini's bread and butter in racing has always been their GT racing programs. And I think making sure that they focus on those core aspects of that motorsport side of the business is really important. And they have a ton of stuff coming with their GT programs. We're going to have the new Lamborghini Temerario GT3 that's set to debut worldwide in 2026. And given the success of the current Huracan that they've been running for years, you gotta think that there's gonna be a significant amount of interest in that new car for next year. And then you also have Lamborghini's single make series, the Super Trofeos, who are also due for a Temerario variant of the car, and they're raced around the world as well. Now again, these new car developments don't mean that the SC63 is dead. But like I said, Lamborghini's bread and butter is their GT programs. The SC63 was their first dive into a factory-backed prototype, and this is a company that they do have limited resources to put into their motorsport activities. And they already have enough on their plate with the new Temerario program and the new Super Trofeo variant that are going to be rolling out over the next couple of years, so I don't see the SC63 being a big focus of Lamborghini's for now. Yeah, it's sad that we're not going to see the SC63 on a racing grid next year. As I said, I think it's one of the best looking cars out there, and we definitely haven't seen all of the performance that that car has to offer. Hopefully down the road we could see Lamborghini with a renewed interest in it and be able to put some more development money into the program to bring the SC63 back and really show us the performance and what it was truly capable of. That's me though, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Do you think that this is the last of the SC63 that we've seen, or do you think it could return in a couple of years? I mean, after all, there have been some pretty good redemption stories in IMSA recently, one of which being Meyer Shank Racing, and you can go check out this recent video I did on the rise, fall, and now the return of Meyer Shank Racing. Huge shout out to all the channel supporters. If you too want to support the show, you can head to patreon.com/offintheesses or click that join button below. Once again though, thanks for tuning in. I hope everyone has a great race weekend and doesn't go off in the S's.